everyone. Welcome back to Toni Saunders' Passion. Today we're going to talk about least restrictive environment. What is that? Well, the least restrictive environment is being in a regular education classroom. That's where most kids learn. I'm saying most because we're talking about special education here. So it's not necessarily the first pick of where the child would be educated. But that doesn't mean that you can't pick it because you are the one who signs for your child to go somewhere else to be educated in a different place. So the next one is inclusion. That means the child has a disability and they're included in the regular ed classroom, but they have a lot of support in there. The next one is a substantially separate program, which means you're going to be approving a different setting altogether all day long with kids that are similar, hopefully similar. It depends on your child and what you believe your child needs. I'll tell you, I have a daughter with cerebral palsy, and when she was in school, early in her education, they wanted to put her in a substantially separate program because she was in a wheelchair. Not because she couldn't do the work, but because she was in a wheelchair. That was a bit biased. Not a lot biased, actually. So, we're down to substantially separate. Now we're going into a substantially separate program outside of the district. They usually call them collaboratives, which means that you're taking children from different points of different districts, and putting them all in one school because they all pay into it as a part of their budget. So we're talking in the classroom, inclusion, substantially separate program outside of the district. Then there is hospital. Believe it or not, that's not the most restrictive. When I say hospital, I'm talking about kids with medical conditions and things like that. Then, the most restrictive environment is at home. That's why the law limits how many days a child can be suspended out of school because they don't want to go and parents don't know they're not going to school. But home is the most restrictive environment. There's a form that you can get from a doctor, your child's pediatrician. It's called a home hospital tutoring form. If you have to keep your child home for an extended period of time, then you have to get one of those and have the doctor sign it and bring it to the school. And they have to provide a tutor for your child for whatever the reason is. And that's your choice. Because most people want their child in school. There are lots of different reasons why a child can't be in school for an extended period of time. So they would get tutoring. And by the way, if the school doesn't have a tutor, if the district doesn't have a tutor, and they keep saying to you, oh, we're looking, but we haven't found one yet, you have the right to find a tutor and make them pay for it. Then watch them scurry around and find somebody. Sometimes. But you have the right to find one yourself if for some reason the school keeps not giving you one. Okay, so those are the least restrictive environments. I wanted you to know that students also have a say. They can't say, no, I'm not going there. They can come to a meeting if they're old enough and say why they shouldn't be in a specific program, or if they've tried a program and it doesn't work for them, and they know it. And they know it. Some kids need an aide with them all the time. That's a part of inclusion. That can be a part of inclusion. They're included and they have an aide with them to make sure that they can do the things that they're asked to do, or to help them do the things they're asked to do, like following directions, writing. Some kids have issues with writing and they're getting occupational therapy a couple of times a week, maybe. I always say that if a child needs occupational therapy for writing, they should be in a regular education program with a computer, some sort of a device to help them write. They shouldn't be having someone beside them writing for them, scribing for them. If they can type or speak into a computer, why not be in a regular classroom? And understand that when you're in a regular classroom and you're using assistive technology and you have to speak into it, they can ask you to, go into a smaller room to do your work, not your homework, your work, because you would, disrupt the classroom or whatever. And that can be done. Your child does not have to be in a substantially separate program unless you choose to put them there and keep them there. And I would say, if they're in a substantially separate program, you should mandate that they take data and let you see it once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever you choose, to make sure that your child is making effective progress. because it's not just that they're in a smaller room with less kids. Substantially separate, it usually means that the child is not going to graduate high school with a diploma. Why? Because the curriculum is not the same. No matter how much they tell you it is, they're learning the same thing you would be learning inside of a regular education classroom. Really? Then why isn't he in it? Then that's where I want him. You see what I mean? You have to make a determination as to whether or not you want your child on an IEP that puts them in a substantially separate program or not. It's up to you. Power of the pen. That's you. And if you're not sure, ask someone. Do some research. Find out what is happening in that substantially separate program. I mean, if it's a program that works for your child and they're learning, it's great. But if they're not learning, if they're watching videos all day long, if they're playing games, watching movies, how is that learning? Unless they're watching educational movies or playing educational games. One time, my daughter was in regular education, getting homework every day. She's in a wheelchair, by the way. And she didn't have an aide to help her because her aide had gone to another student. So they took my daughter and they put her into a substantially separate program. So she's coming home with no homework, talking about having a party. I was like, wait a minute. What happened to your math class, your English class? What happened to those? Oh, I don't go there anymore. What do you mean you don't go there anymore? Well, my aide left and they didn't have anybody to take her place, so they put me in a different classroom. And we don't have homework. And we don't have to do anything. Really? Not on my watch. So I called an immediate meeting, an emergency. And I said, why is my daughter not in her classes? And they were all, oh God. We didn't have an aide. I said, I'll be her aide. I'll come into school every day with her and make sure that she can be in her regular ed classroom. And they said, oh no, we're going to find somebody. I said, well, until you do, I'm going to do it. They didn't want me to be in the room. One time I went into a room, regular ed English class, when she was in elementary school. And I walked, it was parent orientation day. So I walked into the room and I said, where is Cassandra sitting? Because the parents were sitting in the seats that their child would sit in. I said, where does Cassandra sit? They were all in a horseshoe. And Cassandra was in the back of that horseshoe. I said, wait a minute. How was she included in this horseshoe when she's back there? And they said, well, we figured it would be easier for her to get her work done, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, she will not be segregated just because she's in a wheelchair, because she's very intelligent. And so they moved her seat into the horseshoe where it should have been to begin with. Do you agree? I hope so. Because it changed her life. They stopped making her be separated. And that was the point. She should not be discriminated against. And so, that's least restrictive environment. If you want your child to have a chance at passing whatever the high stakes testing is in your area, whatever testing needs to be done according to your state, then the least restrictive environment is where they should be educated. And like I said, if that proves to not work for your child, then go down one notch. Inclusion. Part of the day in regular education and part of the day being pulled out into a substantially separate area. And I hope that helps you as you're determining where your child should be educated. And if you have any questions, please email me and subscribe and leave a note underneath saying, I thought that was great, or, I have a question, whatever you want. This is about you. And have a good day.